back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. And oh, guys, I'm feeling kind of woozy. I don't know what's going on. So weird. Like, oh, wow.
Are you okay,
Hey,
nurse?
Fathery, you're looking mighty handsome today. Thanks for
My
thanks
good
for coming
friend
on the show.
Starfleet boy, my very very good friend.
We're back! Yay!
Yeah.
Like it's been a long, long time. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me, and thank you, audience, for showing up. That's pretty cool. We're here to talk about Mud's Passion, which I think is like probably one of the craziest episodes of Star Trek ever. I don't know what. There's so much to unpack. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about this episode. But yeah. um, so who wants to do the episode summary for this one? Like, I have something in mind, but I'd rather someone else give it a shot.
I can do the summary.
Yes, Fathery.
Go for it.
Well, in the third and final chapter of the Mud versus Kirk trilogy, I suppose. But yes, Harry Mudd, he appeared in the original series season 1, the original series season 2, and then here again in the animated series. With the Enterprise encounters him trying to peddle a love potion to some heavy metal miners on the planet Motherlode.
More like
Minor,
love
not
gummies or something.
He's actually like trying to trick them, and he set up like this whole like staged demonstration with a Rigelian hypnoid. That Spock is like, that's so-called girl is actually a Rigelian hypnoid or whatever. But yes, he's brought into captivity by the Enterprise. He's placed under arrest, and then it turns out, oh, his love potion, it actually works. And Chapel tries to use it on Spock. Mudd escapes with Chapel as a hostage. Goes down to a planet inhabited by giant rock-like creatures. But Spock, it turns out, had just a delayed response. He did fall madly in love with Chapel, and insanely, and I guess that's what madly means. But yeah, he's like crazed. His love is so strong. He demands to go down on the away team or landing party, because we're 23rd century. He demands to go on the landing party to rescue his beloved Christine, and then him and Kirk have a phaser battle with a big monster that tears up their shuttlecraft, and everyone on the Enterprise is falling in love with each other, and then it's all followed by the few minutes of love is followed by several hours of hatred. But they're able to get the landing party back on board the ship, and Mudd, I guess, doused with his own potion, loves Spock and the Enterprise crew so much he confesses to all of his crimes, and they take this big recording of the confession, and all is well and good. And that's the end of
Very
the
nice.
date rape
well done,
drug
man.
episode.
I think it's like worse. I think it's like 70s drug culture, like cocaine or meth or something. Like, I think it's like a crazy.
They had meth in the 70s.
I'm pretty sure it was around back then. It had to have been. Like, it's an older thing. Like, the biker gang started.
Oh,
I think it started with the biker gangs. I don't know. But regardless, I think just 70s drug culture overall, because like that's when
1893, apparently.
Oh, how
That's
about
when
that?
Japanese chemists first synthesized methamphetamines.
there you go. There you have it. Well, but aside from that,
way
just
older
in
than I
general,
thought it
like
was.
I feel like that was like something kind of cringy stuff you saw a lot on shows like Spanish Fly and
yeah,
like the date rape
the idea
thing,
of like a
yeah.
love potion. It's
Yeah.
an old genre trope that I guess
There's even a
traditionally
song about it.
And traditionally, it was kind of like a harmless, funny idea. It's like goes back to like mythology. Like if you get hit by Cupid's arrow, it makes you fall in love with someone immediately.
Totally.
But when you try to apply it to I guess a real life, realistic situation, it is a bit more disturbing and problematic.
I had a note. I was hoping you would say. I'm hoping you'll agree with this, Fathery. But And
Well,
how
I
they wrote it.
automatically disagree with it. Whatever you're gonna say now.
Dune God Emperor Leto the Third. That's my note.
That's what I first thought until I saw
Huh.
the arms, and then I was more like, "Oh, this is the Rancor from Jabba the Hutt."
Oh, it could
Yeah.
also be
What it
like a
looks
three-eyed
but,
rancor. That's true.
some
Yeah.
some offspring, perhaps.
I never pictured Leto the Third like his like up his human part of his body is not like that big. Like his arms would be
Yeah.
like normal man size arms, right?
Oh,
So
yeah,
he's got
but
like this big
I don't know,
worm body.
I think I saw like a Geiger or something illustration that shows like he's actually like a sandworm, and his like little tiny body comes out of the mouth of the sandworm.
Yeah,
or something
there's
like
a lot of
that.
like
It's like
weird illustrations of Emperor Leto that don't actually match the description in the book. But yeah, it's if I have some images saved on my computer that I think are actually pretty accurate to the book's
Ooh.
description, I'll send to you if I can dig them up.
All right, sounds good. That was
From
like a Dune.
when I ran
Dune,
a Dune
sidebar.
book club. Yeah, I used to run a Dune book club, but then we had to stop because the further along we went, the fewer people wanted to keep reading the books. So you got to be dedicated to get past like the weird stuff around like
Yeah.
book 3, book 4. So
Well, what are your overall thoughts on this episode? Whoever wants to start, I guess. Aaron, I'd love to hear yours first.
It's funny. Right now, I'm doing a bunch of stuff with TAS, so everything's sort of like a washing machine in my head of like all the episodes have been kind of jumbled up. So it's like, yeah, it's good. Okay, moving on. No, I always liked it. I thought it has one of the funniest scenes in maybe in all of Star Trek when they are on the planet and like Kirk is like calls the Enterprise to try and get them to beam up, and you just have it's like a modern jump cut from like Family Guy or something, where it's all of a sudden you just see the two crew people just
Dancing in the transporter room.
Yeah, and it's like
Elevator
a jazz
music.
version of the theme song if you listen really carefully, and then
Yeah.
and then it just cuts by. It's like they're not answering. It's just like
I'm trying to.
So
pull
I
it
always
up.
thought
I
that
totally
was-
have it.
that actually where humor in the animated series was actually pretty funny.
Hmm.
So, but
I was
yeah,
in
yeah, there it
Stitches.
is, right there.
Even though there's a lot of cringy things in this episode, I was in Stitches also. Like I feel like it is indeed one of the funniest episodes. I mean, just the absurdity of some of the things Mud.
Yeah.
like
I could see this as a live action, obviously besides the
Mm-hmm.
rock monster. I could see this as something they could have done as a third one in TOS.
This episode made me appreciate the performance that what's his name? I'm sorry.
Roger Carmel.
No, well, Roger Carmel, but like I'm talking about who plays him in Discovery.
Rainn
Rainn
Wilson.
Wilson.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Rainn
Oh
Wilson.
my gosh, I'm so sorry. I
Because you
blanked
can't
on
have
your name.
rain without mud.
Yes, but it gives me a little. I feel like there's like a mean side of Mud that like you see in this episode that I feel like Rain kind of tuned into, and I see it
Mhm.
like there. So it was cool like to see, that I don't know his process or whatever how he came to his Mud, but I can't imagine he didn't watch like this episode at one point or something like that. So
Probably I imagine if. Well, no, didn't he say he didn't? I can't remember. I thought he was one of those people who's like, no, I didn't watch any of the back information.
Oh well, then that's
Oh.
pretty cool that he
One
came
of the two,
very
I don't
close to like.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I don't recall. I think he did have some familiarity with the original series. I don't know if he watched the animated series. But
That's right.
Yeah, I thought he was like interested in doing the role because he was. I don't know if he was a fan of Star Trek, but I think he had some familiarity with it. But
If-
I don't know. That's just in
If
my head.
Rainn Wilson's watching this right now on YouTube, comment in the chat and let us know what your actual thing was. But otherwise, we'll get back to you guys on that because that's
You
something
know
I'd
what?
like to know too.
Rainn Wilson does go to like Star Trek conventions, and he does kind of
Oh, right
like
on.
he seems to be down with the fandom and with the franchise's legacy and stuff. So
He's totally different from his other well-known role of Dwight.
yeah, but I don't really know that well because I'm like the only person who doesn't watch The Office or never watched it.
Jill says USS Love Boat. Yes, the Enterprise.
Oh yeah,
That's more of the Enterprise D, but
It's true.
well, they I guess they kind of lean into this when they do the Naked Now in Next Generation, which is like it's a lot. Can I say hornier? Is that appropriate for your?
That's fine. I think.
Yeah.
But the Naked Now is a much hornier story than the Naked Time.
Oh,
So
totally. Yeah.
it almost seems that it has more in common with this than with the Naked Time.
That's a great point. Yeah,
could
I
see
totally
that,
agree
yeah.
with that. I think the Naked Time was all much more about emotional angst, and the straightforward lustiness was a pretty minor part of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is very similar to Naked Now.
Sub Commander, what were your overall thoughts on this episode?
Oh, well, so I had never seen this episode before. I watched it this morning,
Nice.
or maybe even this afternoon, and yeah, it is gonzo. I mean, it is so it's so wacky. I liked it. I mean, it's absolutely entertaining. I mean, yes, it hasn't aged well, but I love that Roger Carmel came back, and this is the same author. What Stephen Candell that's it, right? Candell,
Yeah.
who wrote the other two. I think that gives it some heft and makes it fun.
They even reference the last appearance, the live action appearance of Mud, and like how'd you get out of that situation. So yeah, it's really
Yeah, and they reference Mud's women as well when Chapel is like, "Oh, I've heard of your potions before."
That's right.
Yeah. And I thought there's a lot of entertaining moments. Humor, getting back to, is a difficult concept. No, but just the bridge crew having all of a sudden their beer goggles on as a result of this drug, and like Maress and Scotty kind of like, "How you doing?"
Yeah.
And I love that. I wish they would have kissed. That would have been an intergalactic, coming together moment.
I would have loved to hear Emrys
and then having this
purring.
hangover and they hate each other. It's like, God, that's real life right there. I love that. But yeah, I quite liked it. I mean, I think Chapel is not served great by the episode of, it's always, that's the weakness of her, get to her through her feelings through Spock. I thought it was kind of funny that Mudd thought this drug was a hoax, and then it ends up actually working. And he's really like annoyed by that. But
I only charged them 300 credits.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, there are I always wondered which episode. I've seen the screen caps of Kirk and Spock hugging, and my good friend Spock, and I wondered where that came from. I'm a little bit sad to find out it's as a result of this chemical intervention, as opposed to just some heartfelt moment. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was a hoot.
I found some. We'll discuss them like in detail, but I found some really outrageous, I know, stretchy, but like a lot of little cool Spirk subtext moments throughout the episode, which I will happily point out, and then you guys can disagree with me and tear my theory down. But that's awesome.
And the one other thing I wanted to say real super quick is this the only time we see Federation ID cards or driver's license where he, Mudd, is it? Yeah, he gets his picture on Christine Chapel's ID card and then uses it to get into the hangar bay. I mean, it just sort of that was there just for the story, but I like those. I'm like, oh, I want one of those. I want USS Enterprise ID card.
That would have been a cool thing for Lincoln Enterprises to have done in the 70s. Like, like you could buy your own little Federation ID card.
Yeah, totally.
I guess we could do that now. John Van Sears, if you're out there listening, like we could make that a thing in 2023.
I'll email him. See what he does.
And you could design the template.
It's cheap. Yeah, exactly.
So there we go. Done.
That should just be like an Instagram thing, right? Like you just like put your picture in this thing and it just generates like a digital version of that.
NASA did these cool things. I'm sorry to go on this sidebar here, audience, but like
it's space exploration adjacent.
But remember, like, I forget when one of the rovers was going to Mars, you could actually buy like a little ticket or a pass, like a boarding pass, and it would like upload your photo and give like basic information. And that was somehow stored on the rover, and like so that image of you went to your boarding pass went to Mars. So yeah, I would love to have like Star Trek IDs from different eras.
Well, we all know that they do have like, what is it, basically, serial numbers or the dog tag numbers.
Yeah, whenever someone is like captured by enemy forces, they're always like, oh, my name, my rank, my service
serial
number.
Yeah.
So we know hers.
Yeah, we get a good view of them.
What is it? N1-596, and then there's like 521Z or something.
You know,
like
would be a
that.
cool Easter egg is if in like an upcoming Strange New Worlds episode, they like have her ID number appear on screen, and it's like the same.
Oh, that would be
ID.
cool.
Yeah.
It seems like there's graphics people on the modern shows. They seem to pay attention to a lot of the details like that. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if that happened. It'd be really cool.
In my my headcanon, those marks underneath the words and stuff, they're basically like a futuristic QR code.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I
instead
like
of
that
being
they're symbols.
whatever-
I feel
Yeah.
like when did this episode air? I forget.
73.
73.
Oh,
Are you
so
talking about the year?
maybe
Or have we
George
ever
Lucas's
crossed into
graphic
74 yet?
designers, graphic artist stole Arabesh from Star Trek the Animated Series. 'Cause it kind of looks like
Oh,
it does
Arabesh.
look
look like
that.
that, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you're right.
Yeah, but that
So
didn't
that's-
appear on screen in the other Star franchise until Return of the Jedi, right? So it's like
Is
10
that
years
right?
later.
Okay, so yeah.
Doesn't
There
do you
go.
see some when R2 is like talking to Luke en route to Dagobah, you know, like pop up on his
Oh yeah,
screen,
yeah. I guess it's an Empire
in this
there.
in
yeah.
Empire, yeah. We just rewatched those as a family, so it's
Mm.
it's fresh in my head. A chapel
was
should
a-
have the Red Cross for the nurse, or at least you know, in early.
Yeah,
No, I think
something.
Oh,
yeah, in some
That's the
episodes, I think
science.
she did have the science one, and then other. I mean, talking about original series, and then other episodes.
She
had a
was
little-
promoted in between TOS and TAS, so maybe,
Oh, okay, all right,
maybe that does something to put her into a different
yeah.
level.
yeah. Her rank is weird because she's what? I think she's a commander in the motion picture. No, she's a lieutenant in the motion picture when she's a doctor.
No, in the motion picture she's the CMO, but she was removed because McCoy came back.
Right.
Right, but like
So she was a
had like
doctor.
an actual rank on her uniform.
Oh,
Oh,
Ilea says Commander Chapel, so she must be a commander.
Yeah.
I mean, I
there we
remember
go.
that. I can hear her voice saying that.
V'ger.
Yes.
I love
Weird,
Persis. Persis Kambata had such a beautiful way of
Yeah.
saying things. Like she had a nice accent, like a combo accent of British and I think
It's like proto Troy.
yeah.
Actually, that was,
Yeah.
and she was supposed to be Troy essentially when because they took Decker and Ilea and basically made them Troy and Riker.
Well,
Uh,
maybe that's
Jill
why
asks-
Marina Sirtis played Troy with that
Yeah.
weird accent.
What was her rank in TOS? She was a lieutenant, right? Wasn't she?
I think she
know.
doesn't have a rank. I think she's
Oh.
I don't know if she has a sleeve, you know, a little sleeve ribbon or whatever you call
yeah,
it.
she's either an ensign or a enlisted person.
And in Strange New World, she's like in some kind of civilian exchange thing, but she still wears a uniform and has a rank. I forget.
Right, which is
I remember
weird
we
'cause-
talked about this, but
Yeah, she
but I
shouldn't
forget.
have a rank in Strange New Worlds because
Oh,
she's
okay.
not an actual officer. She's a
Would
civilian.
could Pike for whatever would there be any military reason why Pike would make you have a provisional rank aboard the ship, like maybe
There'd be
for
like a
security
Star
or
Trek
clearance,
reason.
like a
Yeah.
clearance issue maybe.
They made Wesley an acting ensign on Next Generation when he
Oh,
was
that's
like
right.
15 or 16. So
That's right. Damn, Wesley's career was awesome. He skyrocketed to
Well,
like.
he walked away from it to become Gary Seven's boss, I guess, or whatever was going on there.
Jill says her Strange New World rank stripes are full commander.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Oh.
that seems
She
weird.
demoted and then re-promoted.
But we know
the
from
ranks are all over the place on Strange New Worlds too. They get the rank braids wrong a lot, which I get it. It's like kind of confusing, but
but it was not that way on TOS, right? TOS had consistent rank braid.
no,
with
they
whatever
had
no,
like,
they also
like
messed
Spock.
it up.
Spock has when he's a lieutenant commander and when he's a commander, it's the exact same.
But it's
okay.
pretty consistent. I mean, it was rare. I mean, only a couple times in first season early did they call him a lieutenant commander. I mean,
Right.
they usually called him commander. It was, you know, it was pretty consistent. But yeah, one thing I did notice that's about this episode that I liked is when McCoy is lounging in the sick bay, coming onto the gal in the red. To me, that's Yeoman Barrows. I mean, she never speaks, but like here she's back from shore leave. You remember the
That
Yeoman he
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
his was romancing then. I'm like, this would be
Oh.
perfect. And it even looks like Yeoman Barrows. So
Do I
Yeah,
have
there's
that
no
one?
reason why it couldn't be. So I
Yeah.
love that. That's my headcanon going forward.
yeah.
What part was that? I think I do have that. Well, we'll come upon it again.
Let me
he
tell
said
you how I
about
saved everybody on the ship.
That's right. Yeah,
Basically,
and if the Enterprise had a heart, I'd save her too. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Although he says weird McCoy drunk stuff like that pretty little, what does he say, that pretty little
Pretty
thing,
little Lieutenant
Uhura?
Uhura saved her too. I've saved just about everybody on this ship. If the Enterprise had a heart, I'd save her too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's definitely a vibe of, and now you gals owe me big time, which is a little
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Would you? I thought it was weird that it's a love potion, but then they're love crystals, but it creates a love potion. Like, does it melt on your skin? Like, what's the deal?
It is kind of weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like absorbed through the skin.
it's like they break it open and there's like liquid inside of it, and then you.
Oh yeah, because Chapel has to do that thing, but
And it
he's
can be
such a
airborne.
peddler.
Mm.
Actually,
I mean,
I take that back. He's like a classic pusher. Like he's like a drug pusher. And he says I can't believe he seduced Nurse Chapel.
When he had
I
those-
feel like it was so wild. But maybe he had some on himself too, like
It didn't TOS. He wasn't like. Didn't he have like something that made people young or whatever? Wasn't that the?
The
Yeah,
Venus
that was-
drug.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
he's basically a drug peddler. It's like.
you forget. It's easy to forget that about Harry Mudd when you're a kid because you're not like aware of that context. You're just aware of him as like a mustache twirling villain, like on every other like show.
You know, when this came out and when it was made and when it was released, during the Nixon years, the war on drugs was actually a thing going on in real life. So that might have had some influence on it, I suppose.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. This is my first moment where I saw the Spurk thing happening. Like the dialogue during, or what Harry Mudd's saying during this part. It's something like about like how like, oh yeah, like are you here? So are you here for like something or something like blah 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 or love or true love or something like that? And then it zooms right into Kirk and Spock. And Harry gives like a side eye kind of thing, like he knows what's up. And so that was like that was like my first moment.
Harry Mudd, the most perceptive person on the show. Like,
I mean, he uses his cunning for evil, but
Yeah.
like he is pretty cunning. I would say he gets away with a lot, and he probably he sees his marks. I would argue, but what'd you guys think of the miners and stuff? And what you mentioned this in your summary, Father. I like that this Rigelian hypno thing, whatever.
Yeah.
What was it? You said it.
Rigelian
Hypnoid.
hypnoid.
Hypnoid. That's what it was. Yeah.
Well, one thing interesting about the miners was, there's what looks to be humans working alongside with aliens, but they're not part of the Federation, right? I mean, they want to take Mudd off of there initially before they expose him as a fraud, but, the miners are going to protect him.
Yeah.
And, that's sort of a little reminiscent of some of early TOS, like Mudd's Women, where you kind of had this federation. It wasn't called that then, but it was more like these independent colonies out there. And there wasn't really like, I don't know, the same sort of centralized controls. So I liked how it was reminiscent of the miners in the old Mudd's Women episode.
Yeah, and I've always just kind of assumed that there's Federation colonies, but then there's people who are like, okay, well, we're going to go start like our independent thing over here on this other planet. And so you have like those other separate.
Yeah, supposedly they don't have Federation law on this planet, right?
Yeah,
Right.
on
And
Motherload.
yeah.
That's just such an unusual
By the way,
name
the
too, Motherload. It's
But
like
I
it's
thought
a good
about it
name for
'cause,
a
like-
mining world. It's like, yeah, you get like
Right.
a
Well,
motherload
it's-
of minerals and stuff
Yeah.
from this planet.
If you look at like in the extended information, that's just sort of like what they call it. They do have a planet name, or
They say it in
where
the
it's
beginning
located.
actually.
Yeah.
It's like I forgot to write it down, but yeah, it has a designation that's different than that. But I thought it was interesting because Free Cloud. It reminded me of like kind of the thing like Free Cloud, an idea of like naming a planet or like a colony or something like that. Like
The Arcadian system,
the
Arcadia
Arcadian
3.
system. Very cool. I also like these new aliens that I don't think we've seen dog face.
Ursinoids.
Dog bear? They're bears. They're bears.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
more
okay.
like bear-like to me. I've always wanted to like cosplay as one of these at a convention, but I think it's too deep of a cut. Like 99% of the people like won't get it, and then like the 1% of the people who do recognize it like is like, okay, I get what that's from, but it's actually like not that cool.
Why are you doing Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it'd be easy if you could find like a good mask that looked like that. You just need like the mask and then like a green jumpsuit. So I think that's the main reason why I want to do it.
So they're called ursinoids. Is that so?
Yeah.
Ursa,
Yeah.
like Ursa bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the constellations.
Yeah.
So the bear
And there's
people
also
come from a
another
planet
one,
from the
an alien that they don't name, but in the novelization they talk about how he's from a heavier gravity world, which is why he's sort of like kind of like his everything's kind of pulled down.
Huh.
I don't know if
Okay.
you have a picture of that one in there.
the droopy face.
I'm trying to.
Yeah,
Okay, there.
the other alien that was
Oh,
next to
hold
them.
on.
I like that they have cars too.
Yeah, that I missed that when I watched that, but I just
Yeah.
saw it in the.
No, I didn't
Looks
capture
like a little
that.
GMC Pacer or something.
And I,
like that.
when Spock has to create that canyon in the ground with his phaser, I like seeing like the phasers. You know, in the original series, like the phasers could do all this cool stuff. They had like the wide range beam, and they always talk about how like they're so
right, yeah.
powerful of weapons. That's one thing that like bothered me when Discovery went to the 31st century, and like Tilly is running around on a snow planet being chased by this monster. And it's like, man, like her hand phaser that far in the future should just be like so powerful. It would just like take out a continent if she wanted to, you know, compared to like how powerful they were supposed to be in the original series.
Fancy heaters.
Yeah, fancy heaters.
That's a lot of destruction. That's like MCU level destruction there, you know, with the like, it's pretty impressive. That's why I took that screenshot. But they get Mud finally, and he you know, starts fessing up. But this is my second petition for the Spurk stuff, because here he tries to entice Captain Kirk with like the love potion, and it's just odd that it lingers on Captain while with this like weird computer like beeping sound, like just ambient sound, and then you know, I just see Kirk here contemplating the use of it, but he obviously has more willpower.
So you're saying he was he's like in love with Spock, but he's considering like having an affair and cheating on Spock with someone else through the love potion?
Maybe, or he's like maybe thinking Spock isn't in love with him back or something.
Okay,
You know,
so
because like so, I don't know. Who knows? But there's just like Spurk evidence here. I don't know. I just see it. There's more.
Well, if
Do
you
you see it,
I
or
guess
do you
that's the main
want to
thing.
see it?
Yeah.
Probably more want to see it.
That's,
Audience,
you're not alone.
Tell
There's,
us what you think.
God knows there's a lot of people who really want to see that. So
But all right, back to the main point. So this is wild to me that like Nurse Chapel actually submits to this. So I have to
Yeah.
imagine that he's got some of this potion on him as well, like Harry Mudd, or that like somehow, I don't know, it's weird.
So it's affecting her judgment, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I have to imagine that she's compromised on her judgment. 'cause
yeah,
it-
if you want to take this seriously and literally as presented, then I guess it would kind of character assassinate Nurse Chapel that she would, you know, drug Mr. Spock like this. But
and she even complains about being, you know, like duped later on. Like she's like,
Yeah.
damn, like, you know, it's like, so I don't know. All of this was just like weird.
I love how she falls into his
oh
lap.
no, I'm
This
gonna
scene,
fall on
yeah.
your lap.
Yeah, it's like she's actually like trying. Like I can't imagine. Like so, the evidence is like if she wasn't already under some kind of influence here, definitely by the time she like cracks it open, because she does experience some kind of like fainting spell here. So now for sure, all these actions, but like the impetus might have been genuine in that she was just like kind of like, well, maybe I should test this out. It could have other uses, like a drug that influences.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean,
don't know,
I
it's
think
like-
the intent wasn't that so much as like drugging someone as it's, you know, it's that old classic trope of, you know, using a love potion that they, I don't know, that probably like showed up on like episodes of Bewitched and other, you know, genre
Oh, yeah.
fiction of the time. It's just, just one of those tropes that writers love to go to, and it.
I mean,
you know,
it went into like the '80s with like even what was it that Teen Witch movie that was supposed to be sort of like, I guess, in the Teen Wolf universe, and they kind of that didn't really work. But yeah, she made a love potion, and
Yeah. There's an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where one of the characters on that show, Xander, did like a love spell, and it made like every woman fall in love with.
Oh
the
yeah,
point to where they were like,
over.
if I can't have you, I will kill you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
It became very
Obsession is-
nightmarish. It's
Yeah.
kind of interesting subversion of the trope, but
Yeah.
So her intentions kind of, I agree with that. Like, I definitely want to give Nurse Chapel the benefit of the doubt on that. But so what does this say though about her relationship with Spock? Like in your mind, because like this kind of updated things for me in a way. I hadn't seen this episode like in ages. Like if I'd seen it, it was like when I was a kid, and I kind of barely remember. So watching it now, I was thinking like this is kind of a neat idea that like now has more evidence because of Strange New Worlds. Like,
Yeah.
so this kind of gets a different spin maybe than I would have thought of it before.
oh yeah, we
because
could
of
actually
Strange New
we could
Worlds.
come up with a way of defending Chapel's actions here based on what we saw. Spoilers for Strange New Worlds season 1, but they suggest there that Spock did have some returned feelings for Christine Chapel. So maybe she's just like, hey, your marriage with T'Pring didn't work out. We've been working together all these years. I know that you have feelings for me. Maybe this will just get you to release those feelings and act on them and take action. So maybe we can kind of defend it that way if we really want to take it that serious.
I like when she eventually does the thing where she falls on the lap, and then he's like, no, I don't need help, and she's just like, yeah, that would be stupid or whatever. She
Yeah, that would be illogical
Yeah.
and stupid.
Logical.
Yeah, this is like not the
Stomps off, I'm
episode
like,
you want
wow,
to show.
okay.
You don't want to show this episode to your 4-year-old if you're trying to avoid, like, because it starts with Harry Mudd saying, "Doesn't matter if you're fat or ugly or anything like that; it'll still work." It's just, these are all the words you.
It's super cringy. Yeah, exactly.
Not super
Yeah.
kind.
But I guess
In
it
the
is.
novelization, they say, whether you're fat and then they end with Harry. And then the Ursinoid gets really upset and like lunges at him, basically.
That's great.
So,
Hmm.
all right.
I really want to show this episode to Ethan Peck and Jess Bush because I'm sure they haven't seen
That would
this.
be fun.
But if maybe they have, but if they have, yeah, I would just want to see their reactions. The same part of me that wants to show Colum Meaney the Voyager episode Fairhaven. Like, this is what they thought of Irish people on Star Trek Voyager.
Try and get
I also
them
want to
on
show
the cruise. Just maybe you can get them to like.
Oh yeah, Jess Bush is going to be on the cruise. I don't know how. It's like some of the actors that go on the cruise. Some of them are more mingly with with the fans than others. So I don't know how she's going to be. But yeah, if I do get the chance to talk to her, maybe I'll try to. I don't know. It's gonna
At least find out if she's seen it.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to like describe it to her. Like, did you know there's like an episode of the cartoon where your character date rapes Spock, but or tries to?
I was like, that's not quite what happened.
That's a good way to get someone to like go, huh? I'll have to watch this episode. So it's I just chose these because I like these. There's a lot of frames in the animated series that I would love the cells like to frame, to like print out and frame. And I think both of these are fantastic. Like,
I love how they draw Mud.
Yeah.
He's always very here he looks like he's up to no good. Just, what a troublemaker. Look at that guy.
And that's the scene you guys were talking about earlier where she's like, like, what? Like, I want a refund. Like, like, what's
That's
like,
right.
this didn't work.
It's your return policy. Yeah.
But anyway, she chases him down in an excited. By the way, that's the other thing that's cool about this episode. Like, by now, like, both the voice editing and performances and also the actual, like, kind of action that was going on was pretty, like, dynamic and exciting. Like, it did feel pretty, like, especially in these next scenes where she subdues Mud and, like, then, unfortunately, like, the crystals get scooped up into the ventilation system and all that stuff, like... And then she has to hit the red alert, and all the cuts were really like exciting. Like, I thought they were pretty good. I was like, wow, that's nice.
Yeah, the animation kind of struggles to, show all of the action there and make it make sense. But I think like just the editing, the way that they edit all that together, it actually makes it pretty clear
I agree with Benjinium that Chapel is a badass when she chases him down.
Well, and
But then
just
she's yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just the fact, whether she comes off in a good light or not, she has a lot to do and a lot to say, which she
Yeah.
almost never had in the original series. I mean, there's a whole, even when she's arguing with Mudd and he's trying to convince her. I mean, that scene goes on, and it's like, we're not cutting to Kirk and Spock. It's really kind of Chapel and Mudd's episode.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always applauded the animated series on, is they do expand on Chapel's character and give her plenty to, partly because they were so reliant, I think, on Majel to do all the voices, since they had her around anyways. They might as well use her or use her primary character. But the shuttle base stuff, I love seeing all those shuttles. I love seeing the shuttle that they fly down to the planet in. The interior is cool. The exterior is cool.
I think I have a shot of the exterior. Hang on. It's a
That
small,
interior
tiny...
reminds me of the old Space Quest game. There was a shuttle in there anyway, but that interior looks a lot like it.
It's so cool also to see all these new places. But then here's where this is where it starts getting really wacko, when like the potion gets like starts to take effect, and like Spock starts like getting crazy about wanting to be near Christine. And then like I love like at first their reaction.
McCoy is really good in this.
Yeah, it's true.
When Spock is like, I need to report some strange emotions I'm having, and McCoy is just like, what?
And then McCoy finds like the spent crystals or whatever, like the crack crystals or whatever. Yeah. Oh, crack! There you go. It's crack.
The like crack is the drug, or like like in Ireland they talk about crack, but they're just talking about like like when you're drinking and having a good time and hanging out and like good conversations and stuff, like in the pub. They're like, yes, having some good crack.
Stress for K points out that this version of Chapel seems to be the model of Strange New Worlds, even more bold than Jess Bush. I think that's true. There's like I definitely see more of that.
She has some of that sassiness,
here.
In
here.
Yeah,
when Harry Mudd is like, "Don't bother to thank me," when they're stranded on the planet together. She's like, "Oh, don't worry, I wasn't thinking about it." Eric's and Imres get some stuff to do here too. I mean, they're never explored too deeply on the show. They're just kind of how Sulu and Chekhov were often written, as like, oh yeah, these are just faces you see on the bridge that give some exposition here and there. But I like seeing him play his guitar. I like seeing Imres's flirtation with Scotty.
Yeah, I love that part.
I wonder if this is what are they called, his species? Edosian.
Edosians,
yes.
Right? Yeah. I wonder if that's an Edosian,
or Edoan sometimes.
Or Edoan. Yeah. An Edosian or Edoan instrument, or if it's like something else.
Yeah, it looks like you need 3 arms to play it, because you got like one fretboard up at the top, but then there's 2 areas to strum
in the
strings.
script. It's called a double guitar.
A double guitar. So, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like when Spock is first showing signs of the effects of the love crystals, and just everyone's reacting to him, and Eric does a little whistle or something when yeah it's funny. It's like, what?
I'm never sure, is he reacting to Spock showing emotion, or is he reacting to like Mudd like hauling ass out of the shuttle bay in the shuttle?
No, he's reacting to Spock.
Okay.
I think
it's actually in the script. There's a note about it actually. I think.
Because the reason why it confuses me is because right after he whistles, I think the next shot is the shuttle craft, hauling ass out of the hangar deck. So
this shot, I think. Oh no, well yeah, that's later. Actually, you're right. I didn't capture the hangar deck. Sorry guys, I was in a rush.
It's a beautiful hangar deck.
That's behind me.
There you go.
It's crowded.
Oh, and Aaron, you have a good view of it in the book, right? As I recall.
Yeah, I did it has the other sides of, it's a big expansion. It also, like, if you look at it, it's, the incredible changing cargo bay size, where like in Voyager, you never could put all the shuttles in there. It's the same thing. It's like,
how did Neelix's ship fit inside of Voyager? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, this ship is this shuttle bay is crammed with shuttles that I don't think would fit in there.
It is. You got to get there early if you want to find parking. That's like a nightmare. So many ships in there.
But we get back to, so they get to the planet and they have like another bunch of cool scenes of, like stuff, and then we find out that these like rock creatures are there, and there's like a, what is it, like a wolf one, and then that one. And I like that scene, we talked about this earlier. It's just like really funny where he's like, uh, you know, all these things are happening at once. Like Spock's like, "I love you, Christine," and Nurse Chapel's like, "What?" Like, you do? And this like creature's trying to kill them, and then like Mudd's like, "Get us out of here!" And then of course you have the couple dancing out of their minds, like high high AF from the Enterprise is like totally polluted with this stuff. Um, this was just another cool frame that I thought would be a cool one to get, because it's just like a neat like looking thing. But yeah, they come up with the plan here to actually use the crystals. Apparently Mudd had 2 left, and so Kirk concocts this idea to like somehow like make the creatures eat it, or like, so that's what they do. But there's the scene that you were talking about earlier, Sub Commander with Dr. McCoy. Who's that up front, by the way?
Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to say it's Mr. Leslie.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, Leslie has a mustache in this. In the
Oh,
animated
that's
series.
right. That's right. He does.
Leslie, Kyle does.
No, Kyle does.
Oh,
Or
I don't
Kyle,
think
sorry.
Leslie
You're
is
right.
probably
Not
ever.
Leslie. No, you're right.
No, but no one falls in love with Leslie. So
Maybe
that
Mr.
sucks.
Leslie on Twitter will do an update or a
Yeah.
tweet about this episode, like something about listening to Dr. McCoy.
You know, with the creatures on the planet, the monsters, I appreciate that they're not just copy paste using the same design. They actually have some variety there.
yeah.
I agree with that too. Oh, here's I guess I didn't do a screenshot of the wolf looking one, but here's Captain Kirk throwing the, what was once 2 crystals is now like 10 or 20 crystals. I guess he could have crushed them. That's what happened.
The fragments broke apart. I like seeing Mudd like in on the action a little bit. It's kind of like in I Mudd, where he will team up with our heroes. You know, when it
means
suits his
own,
purposes.
Yeah.
When his life's on the line, basically. He's such a scoundrel. And then there's the
The confession.
finale. Yeah, more confessions.
I guess she's recording it on the tricorder, kind of using that as like the.
I'm trying to remember, but I think this is the most evil stuff Mudd's done. Like everything's been pretty bad, but
You know,
I think
he's always a bit of like a real bastard, though, right? I think just because Roger Cormel did have a certain, I don't know, charm, and it's kind of fun to see whenever he's on screen. Just kind of he has that presence that lights everything up, and he's fun to watch. But yeah, he actually, if you actually think about like the actions he takes and the crimes he commits, and he is a very, very bad person.
Wait, that's why I was like, when they brought him back for Discovery, I'm like, what? He can't have like a redemption arc because he ends up like selling women in the first episode of TOS. It's like,
Right? Yeah, he's a woman trafficker. He's
like,
a,
how
a
is he
drug
start out like as a
peddler.
murderer and get better? Like what is happening? So like, okay, I guess he's just gonna be a bad guy. But yeah, I honestly have never liked Mudd. I just like as a kid, I'm just like, oh, it's a Mudd episode. It's like I don't know if it's because I just didn't, as a little kid, didn't understand it or just didn't like him. But
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. The Inglorious Treksperts podcast is doing a big, special on like top 100 Trek characters, and he's in there. And I agree. I've never really liked the episodes in which he appears, but the guy just has so much charisma. I mean, he just lights
really
up
cool,
the screen.
kind of.
But the episodes are not the best.
Gene supposedly told Roger Cormel back in the 60s. He told him this was like at a party or something. But he said we would like to do a spin-off of Star Trek about Harry Mudd. I don't know if that was ever actually seriously
yeah, I think I've heard that.
considered. It might have just been something that Gene made up at the party.
Big.
But
yeah.
What would his archetype be? Like, he's like Dr. Smith. Like, he's like, what is that character's archetype called? Like, because it's like the villain that's somehow the total villain that somehow you feel sorry for just because he's like because of that thing, like, but it's usually the performances that make you
Yeah.
interested in the character, which I think that you're absolutely right. Like the performance is like what's compelling about Mud, but I always thought he was just like a despicable person. Even as
Yeah.
a kid, I recognized that. And maybe that's the point. Like it's a little bit of a, it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a like how not to to be by showing the worst stuff.
He's almost a bit of a Ferengi character. He's a total like opportunist. He's willing to do any terrible deed if it means he can make a buck. And even like he talks about himself like he's like a legitimate businessman. When they arrive on that planet, he's like, oh, like a clever man like me will be able to find opportunity anywhere. One time I sold these people their own ocean, and
Yeah.
Roddenberry
right.
wanted to bring them back on Next Generation early on too. There's an idea teased of what if they find him in like a cryo chamber, like in some type of like frozen suspended animation. Like I guess what they ended up doing in the Neutral Zone in TNG season 1. They had considered doing that with Harry Mudd and bringing him back then. But
considering TNG's naming conventions, what would that episode have been called?
It probably just would have been called like Mud Awakes or something like that.
Here's Mud in your eye.
Sleeping Mud? No. Mud's no. I don't know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he died, right? I mean, I think he died in 86 even. I mean, so they maybe had some very rudimentary plans, but
I wonder if they would have recast at that point who could have played Mud in the 80s.
No, I think that's the reason why they didn't go through with that was because he did die.
But yeah, I like that comparison to Dr. Smith on Lost in Space. I mean, someone who you kind of like the guy, even though he's a creep and there's a sinister side, and like it's just I do like that that ambivalence, that sort of the conflict that it raises in the audience. But he is very much like that.
It's dang. It's really creepy how he calls everyone his loved ones at the end of the episode. I was just like, but I love the way that's the other thing about this episode that that I thought was really good was just like I feel like there was more original animation, not just like stuff that's like kind of reused for expediency than I'd seen in previous episodes. I guess I don't know if that's just me that we haven't talked about this in weeks, and it's just like my brain kind of going back into like recency bias, like, oh, I'm so excited about the animated series. But Aaron, what do you think about that? Like, did it feel like there was more like kind of like something about it? I don't know, just something felt richer in the overall like animation to me.
Well, I think they did a lot more custom animation. I know that like with the rock creatures and stuff, it was also something really difficult, I guess, to keep the planes of the rock like consistent as it was turning and stuff like that. So I know that was a big challenge for the animators. But I know Bob loved making monsters and stuff like that, so I'm sure they had a good time with it. So I imagine that if there was something they enjoyed working on more, it probably showed in the animation a little bit. But yeah, there seemed to be a lot more custom animation in this episode. I believe this was also like earlier on into production, and it got slipped. But this should have shown up earlier. It was also the first time in script that you saw Eric's and Emrys, but you didn't, or Mares, but because of the way the production is, it ended up you'd already seen them a couple times.
Okay.
Well, that kind of explains why they had such
bigger parts.
I don't want to say large presence, but larger than typical presence.
So I think that is one of the reasons also why it maybe looks a little bit more put together. I don't know. It's not the right word, but
I just tighter, I guess, would be the
tighter. Yeah, that's a good way. But yeah,
that's how I felt about it.
So I could see, I could picture this earlier, and then if you saw the characters, then like Eric's and Mares, you're like, oh, okay, I've seen them more. Now they're part of the show. Yeah. So I think that would have made the flow work better, honestly. Yeah. But they had so many like tribbles and yesteryear, so I think it probably felt like they were padding too much of like throwbacks to TOS in the beginning. So I think they stretched it out some.
One thing I noticed with the animation, sorry, just real quick, is like with all of the cartoons of that era, whenever some action was going to happen on a part of the screen. The color shading doesn't quite match. It's like they first beamed down to that planet, and you saw that rock pile that eventually became the
Yeah.
creature. I'm like, yeah, something's up with that rock pile.
Yeah,
It's,
you know it's
it's-
about to move.
yeah,
I
the shade
agree.
is slightly off.
I think they made
what-
fun of that. They did a a supernatural Scooby Doo crossover,
Oh.
and it was like, how do we know what book to pull to get to the secret passage? It's like, well, it's clearly that one because it was like, the color was different and the yank on it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I love that.
It would have been cool to do a Star Trek animated series Scooby Doo crossover, but it's totally different.
I don't know. We'd have to talk to David Zaslav and Warner Brothers and see if they would allow that to happen. It's possible.
It could happen.
They did. Hey, DC Comics crossed over with Star Trek comics, so there's
What was that?
that was
again?
fairly recent. That was within the last decade. So
Yeah, they don't really do much crossovers anymore. It seems like
yeah.
like
IDW is
DC doesn't
moved
really
it.
want to.
Okay, it's on DC's end.
We got
Yeah.
some fun TNG Mud episode titles. Here's Mud in Your Eye. And then I like this one, Let Sleeping Mud Slide. I think that's my favorite. That's
Yeah.
my
I guess that would have been the title to use.
yeah.
Yeah, good
But-
job, Joe.
Yeah, that's great.
I think,
I think-
Mud in Your Eye. That was actually a book. That was
Oh,
like
really?
a Star Trek novel. I know at one point, Harry Mudd was revealed to be the Emperor in the Mirror universe, like over there.
No
like, he's
way.
like
Oh,
a
wow.
very powerful and important figure. He's the ruler of the Terran Empire.
Oh, Ruben
There's
could
Mud's
make it to
Angels,
our-
Mud's Enterprise. I'm looking at the Mud books. Mud in Your Eye. Yeah, there's one.
Ruben couldn't
That's
make it to our discussion today, but I encouraged him to watch the episode, and he said he agrees. That was quite the episode.
Yeah. I'm sure he had fun with this one. But as wacky as it is, that is a good point about the animation is like really good. And there's a lot of good designs, so it is kind of a good one to watch for that type of stuff.
I agree.
And I know
Any
people,
other-
rag
Oh, go
on
ahead.
Filmation, so it was like, it's good, but yes, you really can't compare it to like Clone Wars or something like that. It's just,
Yeah.
they're not the same.
Right? No, it's true. I don't know. I've never had a problem with the animation as an adult. I appreciate it very much. Like
At the time period, people were like, the backgrounds were something that were really unique because if you notice, like in Scooby Doo, they have like kind of okay background, not Scooby Doo necessarily, but Hanna Barbera, and then they run and it would just loop. We don't have looping
That's right.
backgrounds
That's right.
in TAS, and
And in this
they,
episode, and I didn't capture it, but there's these nice pans across the bridge, for example, that show like it's kind of cool how they did that. That was in that scene where they show everyone kind of like goofing off on the bridge in
Right.
this episode and stuff like that. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. A lot of people forget how Star Trek has always been a very high budget, polished production. Like one of the reasons why the original series struggled to even get a third season was because that show was so expensive. It was very, very costly production. The animated series, same thing. Even like the Berman era Star Treks, that you compare Deep Space Nine and Voyager to any other sci-fi show that was on in the 90s on network television, and Star Trek does look the best compared to everything else back then.
Any other points before we wrap up the discussion, guys?
trying to think. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm surprised how much we had to say about this episode.
There is in this background picture of mine.
It was a lot.
You can't really, like, you kind of can tell the one with the two nacelles. That's Carter Winston's ship.
that
they're
one
storing.
right there. Oh, very
Yeah.
cool.
And then off to the side, which you can't see, there's like this rounded little kind of corner, and that was a shuttle that we actually had designed for Mud, and they didn't use it, but it's actually stuck in there somewhere.
Oh, that's neat. That's like what's interesting about that is I don't know if it's kind of connected, but I wonder if it's the same. You remember they had Mud Ship and what was it in Into Darkness? Like, what was the mission? Would it have been this mission?
Yeah,
Like,
in the Kelvin timeline,
interesting.
there was a Mud incident that happened off screen between Star Trek 09 and Star Trek Into Darkness.
and they have his
yeah.
ship on the shuttle bay in the shuttle.
But
bay for some
according
reason,
to the IDW comics, that was actually not Harry Mudd, but his half Bajoran daughter.
Wow.
Mary Mud. Yeah.
Mary Mud.
Yeah,
Mud Mary.
if you read the 2013 IDW miniseries Countdown to Star Trek Into Darkness, which also has Robert April,
Oh wow.
Right.
and he
Oh,
looks
wow,
more
very-
like TAS Robert April than SNW Robert April.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
that
you know,
makes
Robert
sense.
April. We'll find out one day what's up with Robert April.
I hope we see Sarah, his wife.
Yeah.
He was the first like CMO on the Enterprise, so be interesting if she came back and had some sort of
Oh, or if they do like a
something with Doctor
flashback.
Mbenga or something.
Do
Yeah,
a
or
flashback
that.
episode to like April as captain, Pike as first officer, and then Sarah
That would be
as
cool.
CMO. Yeah.
Yeah, neat.
That would be really cool. This is totally true. Arthur has a full-size robot from Lost in Space in his bedroom, and what is this? Had
Oh,
the
cool.
Dick Two-Field record, same lines for me. One of my favorites. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think you've posted it on Twitter before, Arthur.
Yeah,
love to-
I think Arthur showed us pictures of that when we met him in
That's right.
person in Chicago.
Yeah, a lot of you folks we've met in person, so it's pretty cool. Well, okay, one of you folks right now in the audience. I don't think it's like. I hope to meet Aaron someday in person. I've now met Sub Commander Tall in person and Fathery in person, so you're next. Dun dun dun. Closing thoughts and ratings. So I actually enjoyed this episode from just like the kind of like adding to the lore of Star Trek, and just like Mud always has like interesting conundrums that moral dilemmas that you have to think about, and I think that's like a good thing to do. I was surprised that like I think a lot of these things, I don't know if they'll go over younger folks' heads, but I'm sure younger audiences watching this today, like folks younger than my generation, will think, "What the hell? This is so cringy," and that's a good thing. You're meant
I'd
to
be
think.
curious
of
to
that as cringy.
hear.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watching this for the first time in 2023.
You
Curious
guys
to hear
helped
your
me
thoughts.
resolve one of my major conflicts, which was the character assassination of Chapel in this episode. So I feel pretty good with that. So I'm gonna give this episode a solid 7. I think it's a really it gets a 7. It doesn't get a star before 10. Sorry. What about you guys? Aaron, what would you give this episode if you were rating it? And any closing thoughts?
Real quick before I forget, the we also hear him Scotty talk about having basically a hangover and scotch, and that's something they couldn't even like insinuate that there was Romulan ale in Prodigy, so that's something you definitely would not get today.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot
Oh,
about that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably give it like 8 out of 10 aspirins for my hangover after the love crystals. I mean, especially because it's got the funny cutaway. This is like that would just felt that feels like my humor. So it's just like I think that may even that would part of like what helped shape my humor. I don't know.
Very nice. Everything you needed to learn in life, you learned from Star Trek: The Animated Series.
I don't know about that, but okay.
Adam, Sub Commander, what would you say about this episode? Final thoughts and a rating if you so desire.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot else to say about it, but I guess one thing I do like about all the Harry Mudd episodes is that it just shows that even in the 23rd century, there are still humans that are scoundrels and not nice, and are trying to not everyone. It's not a utopia for everyone. So I do like that that's in the mix. So but it's very entertaining. I mean, I laughed a lot watching this. So on the strength of that, I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Right on. And Fathery.
As we've pointed out, there are a lot of things I enjoy in this episode. It is great to see Roger Cormel, one more time. If you only mess with the live action Star Trek and don't do the animation stuff, you miss his final performance as Mudd. So I'm glad we have that. I also, enjoy Nurse Chapel having a larger role. A lot of the animation stuff, seeing more of the MRS Eric's, the shuttle, the cool, like the nerdy little ship nerd part of me is excited by the shuttles and stuff like that, the rock creatures. But yeah, it is kind of a wacky story that probably does more harm than good in the grand scheme. So gotta keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy the other stuff in spite of that. So I would rank it 81% out of plus or minus 0.53. Like the odds of finding mud on Mother Lode.
Okay.
That was actually really
Did that
funny.
make sense to anybody? Because I was trying to like, wait, what?
I just like that Bones is like, couldn't you just say, you know,
He's probably there.
Probably there.
I
And he
just
goes,
did, Doctor.
I just did, Doctor. Like, I just thought that was a good classic TOS-y type of
Yeah.
exchange. And
Yeah, they knew DeForest and Leonard Nimoy. They knew how to deliver those lines.
Yeah.
Yesterday would have been DeForest Kelly's 103rd birthday, so it was the
right.
Yeah, that's
anniversary of his
crazy.
birthday.
I was just
so it's
thinking
pretty cool.
the other day. Dave and I have been covering Deep Space Nine on Text Trek, and I was just thinking he died around the same time that DS9 ended. And I remember teenage me thinking like
Oh.
I wonder if he had been like keeping up with Deep Space Nine, or like how far did he actually
Probably
get?
not.
Like, did he get to
Probably
see
not.
the ending? Like, I remember like being
That's
worried
sweet.
about that.
Oh,
I
that's
doubt that was is one of his top concerns. But
Yeah.
at that point in time, but
I found 2 ads on
Get him a
YouTube.
VCR stat.
yeah,
I found 2 things on YouTube that were hilarious. He does this one kind of reaction. It's like a YouTube video reaction, like but before any of that existed. And you see like William Shatner doing his Rocket Man, performance live or whatever. And then DeForest Kelly comes on screen and says, "Damn it, Bill, you're an actor, not a singer." And so I thought that was funny. And then the
that is
second
the correct response to that.
and then the second one was I forget what the ad was for, but he comes in and he does his line. He's like, "I'm a doctor, not a whatever," and so it was very funny. But yeah, I love Dr. McCoy and his ornery ness. He has a singular wit, as Captain Kirk points out in Star Trek 6, and DeForest Kelly makes it wonderful. But okay, cool. I enjoyed this discussion. Like I feel like I came in, I was gonna start, really hitting this episode hard, but you guys softened me up to it, and so although it did make me laugh a lot. I found myself laughing both uncomfortably as well as just
Yeah,
like,
there's the uncomfortable level is in there. It's like like don't let my rating like think like, oh, I approve of all of this. Like,
yeah,
no,
yeah. No, it's true. There's definitely that. But would we put this in the same penalty box as what is it called?
Code of Honor.
Code of
Code of
Honor. Would it
Honor?
go
No, it's
there?
like,
The Code of
No.
Honor is much worse.
Worse. It is worse. But like, could it go in that same penalty box? Like where it's like, no. I think I would like. I think if you like TOS, like what you said, Father, you should watch this episode. It's not that bad. It's not.
Yeah,
totally-
anyone
it's
who
really-
likes the original series needs to try the animated series. Some people just they are allergic to 1970s animation, and so I'm sorry.
listen to it like a radio program. That's something.
Yeah,
I've
you
told
could do
people.
that.
It's
You
like if you could just.
It's
listen
funny
to it
you
and
mentioned
it's-
that, but it works really well that way because I listened to it in the shower just to like refresh my memory about the
Mhm.
dialogue, and I was having the same reactions. Of course, I'd seen it before, but still,
Right.
it was fun to listen to it. You could follow along a lot with what's going on. So you're absolutely right. What have you guys got to promote this week, or tell folks where they can find you on the internet? Let's begin with you, Sub Commander.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm still hanging on Twitter there at Subcommander T, or if you'd like deep dive into kind of original series parody, you can look at my at Mr. Leslie TOS account. Yeah, not too much going on. It is hashtag TOS Saturday night.
What are they doing tonight? Do you
They're
know?
doing the Enterprise incident
Oh,
featuring
right on.
Subcommander Tall. So I'm gonna
Great episode.
I need
You're
to
gonna
find a way to
definitely
stay up for
plug.
that. And they're following it actually with the an
Ambergris.
animated one.
Mhm.
How do you say it?
Yes. The
The amber-
ambergris element.
Ambergris elements. So
I always forget how to say that word too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll
Whale
probably
fat.
Yeah.
All right,
Look for
Starfleet
that.
Boy is gonna take his party nap. I'm finally feeling well after being sick for so long with this like crazy upper respiratory bug that everyone seems to be catching, but no one knows what it is. The Earth is trying really hard to kill us. No, okay, maybe not. But anyways, so I
Feels
might
like it.
have a drink or two. I already started drinking yesterday. I was having fun drinking and being on Twitter yesterday.
You started drinking yesterday, and like you still haven't stopped. Was that what you're trying to tell us?
You gotta catch up. You gotta catch up. No,
Oh, you're
no,
making
no.
up for lost time. I
Lost
see.
time.
Okay.
It's true. It's true.
Well, you don't want that hangover of all hangover like Scotty had in this episode.
No,
so.
no, definitely not. Well, I'm not messing with any love crystals or any kinds of crystals or anything like that, so
Yes.
I should be all right.
Do not combine with medication.
But yeah, I'll definitely be coming to that. That's awesome. Aaron, what's going on in your world, and where can folks find you? And I know you got some
You
podcasts
can-
to promote too.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at GeekFilter and on Instagram. I've tried moving to Mastodon and then it just didn't keep up with it, so I'm there kind of. But yeah, I'm going to try and I'm getting a path towards bringing back my two podcasts, Infinite Trek and Drawn to Trek. So those hopefully will be in the next couple months, returning in some form or fashion. But I was interviewed with my book partner, Rich Shepis, on Enterprise Incidents. So you can listen to that. We talk about the animated series. And then we have a Trexperts briefing room coming up at some point once we record it. So that's right. And in March, I've done Strange New Worlds, the Illyrian Enigma,
Ooh.
number 4, cover B for the comic book.
Ooh.
And it's an homage to Jack Kirby.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Excellent. Well, Fathery, I know you just did your DS9 stream last night. How'd it go? I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'll make it to the next thing.
Well, the beauty.
And I'll definitely be watching the replay.
The beauty of those shows is you can always watch later if you don't catch us live. But
That's true.
yeah, we covered the end of season 6 of DS9. We do these DS9 shows. We break them down into chunks of episodes. So we did the last 8 of season 6. Next week we're discussing the first 8 episodes of season 7. Very exciting. Deep Space Nine is my personal favorite Star Trek show, and Star Trek is like my favorite thing in life. So it's something I really love to revisit. Dave is watching this for the first time, so he has his first time reactions to everything. So there's the big death at the end of season 6, so I got to see his reaction to that, and
Ooh, don't
looking
spoil
forward
it. I
to
can't wait to go see.
yeah, looking forward to his reaction to the new character Ezri joining the show in season 7. So those are available to watch live on YouTube every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central, or you can listen to us later wherever you get your podcast. And soon, in just 4 weeks? Less than 4 weeks now, we'll have new Star Trek again. So we'll have new episodes of Star Trek Picard, and we'll be covering each and every one of those every week on Fridays. And then Strange New Worlds, which I'm really excited to see more Strange New Worlds. And of course, new Discovery, new Lower Decks, new Prodigy, all coming later in the year. So we'll have plenty to talk about over on Text Trek.
Awesome. Can't wait. I can't wait for Picard. I'm so excited. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on. Folks, sorry that Starfleet Boy's been a bit inconsistent with our Saturday streams. And right now I'm not doing any Twitter spaces, although I joined the salon, which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of I got into one of these cannon beef modes. I get into these. Fathery can tell you. I get into these.
Did you get
modes.
phasered?
With who were you beefing
Or in the
with?
salon?
I won't say it here on the stream because I don't want to disparage anyone and have anyone go after anyone or anything like that. I hate that kind of stuff.
I'm ready to go after someone.
But also, I have controversial ideas about canon. I look at canon from a kind of a fourth dimensional perspective, and so people fight me all the time. So anyways, but I had
poker
canon
than
beef,
chess.
and I got to air it out at the salon, which is a pretty cool open safe space for people to it doesn't get recorded, so unfortunately I can't send you to go listen to my canon beef. You had to be there.
This is what Stan does on Twitter.
Yeah, Stan does
on
this
Thursdays.
Yeah, Thursdays.
Oh, is
yeah.
that every Thursday? Because I saw you doing that.
Yeah.
I popped in real quick, but then I
I
couldn't
think everyone's kind of looking forward to this little I think all of us broadcasters. Can we say that? Like, I don't know.
Content
like,
creators.
Content creators.
Content
Thank
creators,
you.
there you
We
go.
kind of
That's
get
the catchphrase term.
inconsistent in between shows, like when you get a nice little break, like we have between Prodigy and Picard, except for Text Trek, which continues to do. I think you're like the only uninterrupted, non-stop Trek stream that I've.
I'm
ever...
I'm a very regimented person. I
It's
like
true,
having
it's
my
true.
set routines. So.
But I go on like a kind of like, woo, it's like there's a break. Like
I eat the same lunch every day. So
but yeah, we try to do them every Thursday.
Okay.
So when Picard returns, I'm gonna try to do. I don't know if I'm gonna do Twitter Spaces for Picard. I think plenty of folks are gonna be doing it, including Crusher Convo. But we're gonna try to do a live stream on Thursdays at some point when Picard drops. So it'll just
like
be
you used to
like
do on Thursday evenings.
yeah, and it's gonna be even more casual and informal because it's really just gonna be a reaction. There's not gonna be like screenshots. You know, that's what you go to Text Trek for. Deep dive screenshots first on the scene. So, but it'll be more of a reaction type of like, oh, what'd you think of that
Yeah.
type of thing. So
I miss those old days when we had like that. Yeah, you had like the instant reaction on Starfleet Boy, and then you had the deep look on Text Trek, and then we had Starfleet Boy After Dark after that.
yeah, well, hey, maybe we'll do Starfleet Boy After Dark Picard.
Yeah, we're
edition.
gonna bring
Like, we
back
could bring it
TGIF.
back.
Or
TGIF.
TQIF.
TQIF. Let's do it. I agree. Let's do it. We're gonna bring it back, starting with Thursday nights. But anyways, so yeah, lots of exciting things coming up. But thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, audience, for showing up. I love hearing your thoughts in the chat. I gotta go now because my aunt and uncle are waiting for me. I promised them I'd be done by 4. So,
Well, that was a lie.
It was totally a lie.
4:11 right now
It's true.
on the East Coast.
So live long and prosper, and we will see you